Why modern ultra-processed foods are creating a metabolic storm in the brain. Introduction. Good evening, everyone. Let me begin with a short story. A few years ago, a family brought their young son to a doctor because they were worried about his health and his school performance. The boy's name was Rahul. Rahul was about 11 years old. He was a cheerful child, but his parents had begun noticing several problems. Rahul had gained a significant amount of weight over the previous few years. He often felt tired. He struggled to concentrate in school. His teachers noticed that he was becoming inattentive in class. Homework took a long time, and even simple tasks seemed difficult for him. His parents were concerned. They consulted doctors, tutors, and even tried different medications and supplements. But nothing seemed to produce much improvement. During one family gathering, a relative who was a nutritionist asked a very simple question. What does Rahul usually eat during the day? His parents described a typical school day. For breakfast, Rahul often had sweetened cereals or packaged bread. For his school tiffin, he usually carried packaged snacks, chips, biscuits, processed sandwiches, or sweetened drinks. After school, he frequently consumed ready-to-eat snacks or fast food. In other words, a large portion of Rahul's daily diet consisted of ultra-processed foods. The nutritionist suggested a simple experiment. For several weeks, Rahul's parents gradually replaced ultra-processed foods with simple, home-prepared meals. His tiffin box began to include fresh fruits, nuts, homemade sandwiches, traditional meals prepared at home. Sugary drinks and packaged snacks were reduced. Within a few months, something remarkable began to happen. Rahul's energy improved. His concentration improved. Teachers began noticing that he was participating more actively in class. Gradually, his weight began to normalize. Over time, Rahul not only reached a healthy weight for his age and height, but also became more confident in school and more active in sports. Today, Rahul is doing well both academically and physically. Now, Rahul's story is not unique. It reflects a broader issue affecting many children today, and it raises an important question. What role do modern ultra-processed foods play in shaping not only our physical health, but also our brain function? That is exactly what we will explore today. So I would like to begin with a question. Why are we seeing such a dramatic rise in chronic diseases across the world? Diseases such as obesity, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, cardiovascular disease, and increasingly, cognitive decline. At first glance, these conditions may appear unrelated, but modern research is revealing something remarkable. Many of these diseases share a common metabolic foundation, and one of the most powerful drivers of this metabolic disturbance may be something that has become extremely common in modern diets: ultra-processed foods. These foods are not simply food prepared in a kitchen. They are industrial formulations designed to be extremely palatable, rapidly absorbed, and highly profitable. They often contain combinations of refined carbohydrates, sugars, unhealthy fats, salt, artificial flavorings, and additives. While these foods may taste pleasurable for a moment, their effects inside the body can be quite dramatic. Many scientists now believe that frequent consumption of ultra-processed foods can create what we might call a metabolic storm inside the body. And perhaps nowhere is this storm more concerning than in the human brain. Because the brain is not only the organ that regulates our thoughts and memory, it is also an organ deeply dependent on stable metabolic conditions. Today we will explore what ultra-processed foods are, how they affect metabolism, how they disturb brain function, and why protecting metabolic health may also protect the brain. What are ultra-processed foods? To understand the problem, we must first define what we mean by ultra-processed foods. These are foods that are heavily modified from their natural form and often contain ingredients rarely used in traditional cooking. Examples include sugary soft drinks, packaged snack foods, refined breakfast cereals, sweetened desserts, fast foods, and packaged ready-to-eat meals. Scientific concept: ultra-processed foods. These foods are typically designed for long shelf life, convenience, intense flavor. But they are also often rapidly absorbed by the body, producing large metabolic responses. The glucose spike phenomenon. One of the most important metabolic effects of ultra-processed foods is the rapid rise in blood sugar after consumption. Scientific concept: postprandial hyperglycemia. Foods rich in refined carbohydrates and sugars are digested quickly. This causes glucose to enter the bloodstream rapidly. The body must then release large amounts of insulin to control the rising glucose levels. Scientific concept: insulin. If this happens occasionally, the body can manage it. But when it happens several times a day for many years, it begins to disturb metabolic balance. The development of insulin resistance. Repeated glucose spikes force the pancreas to produce increasing amounts of insulin. Over time, cells may become less responsive to insulin signals. Scientific concept: insulin resistance. This condition often develops silently over many years. Long before diabetes is diagnosed, individuals may already have elevated insulin levels, increased fat storage, metabolic inflammation. This metabolic disturbance affects many organs of the body, but one organ that is particularly sensitive to these changes is the brain. The brain's dependence on stable energy. The brain is an extraordinary organ. Although it represents only about 2% of body weight, it consumes nearly 20% of the body's energy. Scientific concept: brain energy metabolism. This means the brain requires a stable supply of fuel. When blood sugar fluctuates dramatically, the brain experiences metabolic stress. Ultra-processed foods often produce rapid spikes, followed by rapid drops in glucose. This instability can affect concentration, mood, mental clarity. Many people experience this as fatigue, brain fog, irritability. But the long-term consequences may be even more significant. Inflammation in the brain. Frequent consumption of ultra-processed foods can promote systemic inflammation. Scientific concept: chronic inflammation. Inflammatory molecules circulating in the bloodstream can influence the brain. Inside the brain, immune cells called microglia may become activated. When this activation persists for long periods, it may contribute to neuroinflammation. Scientific concept: neuroinflammation. Neuroinflammation is increasingly associated with cognitive decline, oxidative stress, and brain damage. Another consequence of unstable metabolism is oxidative stress. Scientific concept: oxidative stress. Neurons are particularly vulnerable to oxidative damage. Unlike many other cells, neurons have limited capacity to regenerate. Repeated metabolic stress may gradually damage neural networks involved in memory and cognition. The link to cognitive decline. Increasing evidence suggests that metabolic disturbances may contribute to neurodegenerative diseases. One of the most studied conditions is Alzheimer's disease. Some researchers have proposed that impaired insulin signaling in the brain plays a role in the development of Alzheimer's disease. This has led to the informal description of Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes. Although this is not an official diagnosis, it highlights the deep connection between metabolic health and brain health. How traditional diets were different. For most of human history, people consumed foods that were minimally processed, rich in fiber, nutrient-dense. Traditional diets produced slower glucose absorption. Meals did not create the dramatic metabolic spikes commonly seen today. Physical activity was also integrated into daily life. These factors helped maintain metabolic balance. Protecting the brain through dietary choices. Fortunately, the brain is resilient. Many lifestyle choices can support metabolic stability. These include consuming whole foods, increasing fiber intake, limiting refined sugars, maintaining regular physical activity, walking after meals. These practices help stabilize glucose levels and reduce metabolic stress. Over time, this may protect both metabolic and cognitive health. Conclusion. As we reflect on this topic, an important realization emerges. Food is not simply fuel for the body. It is also information for our metabolism. Every meal sends signals throughout the body, influencing hormones, inflammation, and cellular energy systems. When we repeatedly consume ultra-processed foods, we may unknowingly create metabolic disturbances that affect many organs. But perhaps the most profound effects occur in the brain. The brain is the organ through which we experience life. It holds our memories. It shapes our thoughts. It allows us to understand the world. Protecting brain health, therefore, requires more than mental exercises or medications. It requires protecting the metabolic environment in which the brain functions. And perhaps one of the most important steps is rediscovering a simple principle that guided human nutrition for thousands of years. Eat foods that are close to nature. Whole foods, balanced meals, stable metabolism. In doing so, we may not only protect our physical health, we may also preserve the clarity of the mind that allows us to live, learn, and experience life fully. Holistic Wellness Foundation. Imphal Healing Beyond Boundaries. Selected scientific references. Ultra-processed foods and health outcomes. Public health nutrition. Brain insulin at the crossroads of metabolic and cognitive disorders. Nature Reviews Neuroscience. The carbohydrate insulin model of obesity. JAMA Internal Medicine. Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes. Journal of Diabetes Science and Technology.